You have people around you, perhaps many people, colleagues, acquaintances, the social network that modern life generates through proximity and algorithm, and the accumulated contact list of a life lived in organizations and neighborhoods and online platforms. And inside all of that, if you were honest about it, perhaps three people, perhaps fewer, with whom the conversation goes somewhere worth going, with whom you're actually known rather than managed, with whom you leave the encounter more yourself than when you arrived. Seneca had a name for the gap between the many and the few. He said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." And he said something that cuts more directly still, that the person you spend the most time with is the person you are becoming, not metaphorically, actually. The inner circle is not the context in which your character develops, it is the material from which your character is made. This is either clarifying or alarming, depending on who is in your inner circle right now. Seneca intended both. There is a specific quality of loneliness that the well-connected person carries, and that is harder to name than ordinary loneliness, precisely because it exists inside abundance. You are not without people. You are without the particular kind of person, the one in whose presence you think more clearly, speak more honestly, become more fully what you are trying to be. The friendships you have are real and valued, and something in them, for most of them, operates at a level that is slightly below what you most need. Pleasant, warm, sometimes genuinely enjoyable, and not the thing that Seneca means when he uses the word friendship. Because what Seneca means is specific and demanding. He means the relationship in which both people are genuinely, mutually committed to the other's growth. Not support in the consoling sense, not the friend who tells you what you want to hear, the friend who tells you what you need to hear, in the way that only a person who cares about you more than they care about your comfort can tell it. The friends whose company makes you better, not more comfortable, better. Sharper, more honest, more the person you are trying to become. This friend is rare. Seneca knew it was rare. He wrote about it with the precision of a man who had experienced both the presence and the absence. Lucius Annaeus Seneca, whose biography we have touched in earlier episodes on time and anger, spent much of his adult life surrounded by people and genuinely close to very few. The court of Nero was not a place that produced deep friendship. It produced strategic alliance, useful proximity, the management of relationships for survival. Real friendship, the kind Seneca wrote about in his letters to Lucilius, the kind he was arguably trying to model in the correspondence itself, required conditions that imperial court life actively prevented. The letters to Lucilius are the philosophical document in which Seneca's thinking on friendship is most fully developed. Lucilius was a young administrator in Sicily, a man of genuine intellectual seriousness, and the letters, 124 of them, written in the last years of Seneca's life, are addressed to him as a friend in the fullest Senecan sense, not a student being instructed from above, a person being accompanied on the path. Seneca shares his own doubts, his own failures, his own distance from the ideals he is articulating. The letters are not lectures, they are friendship in practice. The key philosophical texts on friendship from Seneca are scattered across the letters and his essay on benefits. The argument he builds is systematic, and once you have seen it, very difficult to unsee. He begins with a distinction that most people resist because it flattens a comfortable category. There are, he says, three kinds of what the world calls friendship. The friendship of utility, the relationship maintained because each party is useful to the other, which dissolves when the utility disappears. The friendship of pleasure, the relationship maintained because the company is enjoyable, which fades when circumstances change. And genuine friendship, the relationship in which each person values the other for who they are, in which the concern for the other's genuine good exceeds the concern for one's own comfort. Most of what we call friendship is the first or second kind. This is not a moral failure, it is the nature of social life, and Seneca does not condemn it.
But he is precise about what the first two kinds cannot provide. They cannot provide the mirror that shows you who you actually are. They cannot provide the honest opposition that genuine growth requires. They cannot provide the specific, demanding, irreplaceable quality of being truly known by someone who cares about your actual development rather than the maintenance of the relationship's pleasantness. The person you spend the most time with is a mirror. The question is what kind of mirror it is. If the people around you mostly agree with you, mostly confirm your existing understanding, mostly make you comfortable, you are in a mirror that reflects back what you already are. This is pleasant. It is also, over time, diminishing, because the self that is not challenged does not grow. The self that is consistently confirmed does not discover its limits. The self surrounded by agreement becomes, gradually and without drama, smaller than it was. If the people around you challenge you, not from antagonism but from genuine care, not from the desire to diminish but from the commitment to your actual development, you are in a different kind of mirror. This mirror is less comfortable. It is, over time, the one that produces the person you are trying to become. Seneca writes, and this is the sentence that has organized much of his thinking on friendship: "Tell me who you spend time with, and I will tell you who you are becoming. Not who you are, who you are becoming. The direction is in the company." Now the bridge. Because Seneca was a first-century Roman Stoic writing to a friend in Sicily about the philosophy of human connection, and most people watching this video are not. But here is what has not changed.
The group chat that mostly confirms what everyone already believes. The professional network that is maintained for its usefulness and in which the conversations are warm but carefully managed. The social context where the cost of genuine honesty is high enough that everyone has, by mutual unspoken agreement, decided not to pay it. The friendship that has been running on the momentum of shared history rather than the fuel of genuine mutual development. These are Seneca's situations wearing modern clothes, and his prescription is not to abandon any of them. He was not an ascetic of human connection, and the letters show a man who valued affection and warmth and the ordinary pleasures of good company. His prescription is to be honest about what each relationship is, what it provides and what it cannot provide. And then, with the specific, patient, practically demanding seriousness of a person who has decided that the inner circle matters, to cultivate wherever possible the rarer kind. Not by discarding the friendships of utility and pleasure, by adding, wherever the opportunity presents itself, the friendship that actually costs something. The relationship in which you are honest, in which you ask the harder question, in which you allow yourself to be seen in the full reality of your development rather than the curated version that most social contexts reward. Here is what Seneca asks of you, practically, today. First, take the honest inventory of your inner circle, not the full network, the 3 to 5 people whose company most reliably shapes how you think, who you become in their presence, what you believe is possible. And ask, for each one, does time with this person leave me more or less myself? More honest or more managed? More alive to what I am trying to become, or more comfortable with what I already am? This is not an invitation to audit your friends for inadequacy. It is the Senecan practice of seeing clearly what each relationship actually is and what it therefore can and cannot provide. The friendship of utility has genuine value. The friendship of pleasure has genuine value. And neither of them is a substitute for the friendship that Seneca says is the rarest and most important thing available to a human life. Second, be the friend that produces growth. The person who wants a Senecan friendship has to be willing to be one. This means the specific, costly, countercultural practice of honest engagement, saying the true thing rather than the comfortable one, asking the question the person needs rather than the question they want, caring more about the other's actual development than about the relationship's pleasantness. Find one person in your current circle with whom this is possible and practice it.
Not brutally. Seneca is precise that the honest friend speaks with care, not with the freedom of the person who has confused candor with cruelty. With the specific quality of honest attention that communicates, "I care about you more than I care about your approval of me." Third, choose the company that challenges rather than confirms. One practical, available, immediately actionable version of Seneca's instruction: seek out, deliberately and regularly, the person whose perspective on the world differs most usefully from your own. Not the person who disagrees with you from hostility, the person whose genuine engagement with different questions, different methods, different ways of seeing produces in you the specific productive discomfort of a self meeting its limits. This may not be the easiest person in your current network. It is, Seneca would say, probably the most important one. Fourth, tend the friendship that is already genuine. If you have one person, in whose company you think more clearly, speak more honestly, become more fully what you are trying to be, tend that relationship with the specific, serious, Senecan conviction that it is among the most important things in your life. Not the most dramatic, the most important. Call, write, spend the time, not as social maintenance, as the deliberate, philosophically grounded investment in the one thing that Seneca, at the end of his life, writing to Lucilius from the court where genuine friendship was impossible, said was worth more than any other thing the human life could contain. I want to close with the image that stays with me when I think about Seneca on friendship. Not the philosopher in the court, not the advisor to Nero. The letters themselves, 124 of them, written in the last 3 years of a life that had been largely spent in proximity to power and distance from genuine connection. Written to a younger man in Sicily with the specific, unhurried, completely unguarded quality of a person who has finally, in the years remaining to him, decided to be entirely honest about the philosophy, about the practice, about the gap between what he teaches and what he lives, about the fear of death that keeps arriving despite the arguments against it. The letters are Senecan friendship in practice, not the ideal described from a distance. The attempt, imperfect and genuine, to be the kind of person to Lucilius that Seneca argues everyone needs and most people never find. He built the philosophy, he tried to embody it, he fell short regularly and said so, and in the falling short and the saying so, in the complete, unglamorous, entirely human reality of a brilliant man trying to live up to what he believed, he left behind something that 2,000 years of readers have returned to for the specific comfort of being honestly accompanied. That is what the Senecan friendship produces, not the comfort of agreement, the deeper comfort of being genuinely known, of traveling in the company of someone who is trying as you are trying, and who is honest about the trying. That is what the inner circle is for, and it is worth whatever it costs to have it. Here is the question Seneca leaves us with today. Think of the last conversation that left you more yourself, sharper, more honest, more alive to what you were trying to become. Who was it with? And think of the last conversation that left you slightly less yourself, more managed, more confirmed in what you already believed, more comfortable and less real. Who was that with? The gap between those two experiences is the map of your inner circle's direction. Which kind of company is currently more present in your life, and what would it take to shift the balance, even slightly, toward the rarer kind? Leave that in the comments, because the naming, even privately, is the beginning of the Senecan practice, the honest accounting that he said was the precondition of the friendship worth having. I'll see you in the next one.